So we have with us a very special student of ours. He's All India rank 78 and doctor by profession, Dr. Prashanth. Hello everyone. So today we have with us a very special student of ours. He's All India rank 78 this time, and on top of that is also a doctor by profession, Dr. Prashanth. There are many congratulations, and we at Forum are really proud of you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, so this was the first attempt, right?
Yes, sir.
How did you manage that?
So I think I had roughly 8.5 months to prepare, and I knew I was short of time. So the only thing that I could do was to look up limited resources, take a couple of tests, and go for it, because that's all that I could do.
See, there is always a sense of beginner's luck, and there's also a sense of fear also when it comes to the first attempt, right? So
yes, sir.
Did you have any kind of issues कि हाँ sir इस बार नहीं हो पाएगा?
There is always this feeling of being a little diffident, because you never know, and I think there's a fortune also associated with the process. But at the end of the day, I think we just need to be confident that we'll probably be able to get through, and I think that's what worked.
So, coming to the part of different stages, prelims, you cleared, mains, and finally interviews. So, what were you doing when the final result, were declared?
I was actually outside, and suddenly I saw a telegram notification which said the results have come and that it's a verified PDF. So I just opened up and dropped my name, and it came at 78. But then I was a little unsure, so I just looked up the roll number and then confirmed. So that's how I looked up.
So you did not scroll up, you control left, right?
Yes.
Okay, so coming to the part, for example, of prelims, right? And it was your first attempt. What worked wonderfully well?
I think about the prelims, it's about the intuition that works. And I used to attempt around 80-85 questions on the mocks, but I attempted 95 in the actual exam. So I think it was a do-or-die approach. And at the end of the day, you just have to trust your intuition and work. That's all that matters with respect to the prelims.
So there is a threshold for you? That this much questions you will definitely be attempting?
80 to 85 was the minimum.
It was the minimum?
Yes.
And the number of mocks?
I think it was quite huge, maybe even 100, because I used to try as many test papers as possible until I really got baffled of the questions.
And there's always a sense of confusion regarding this. That then how many iterations a paper needs to be completed? In how many iterations you did it?
I think 2 to 3 iterations again. Most of the questions I was stuck between 2 options. So I tried kind of eliminating that. I think I used to mark the answers on the OMR sheet at the end of it. So that was my approach. And I think, that's all that matters. Doing a number of iterations is okay as long as you get 80 to 85 questions to attempt.
And what about the CSAT? Because you come from the medical science background, right? So mathematics have been a challenging part, was it?
Actually, yes. I really didn't practice for the CSAT, but then because I was kind of confident of the English comprehension part, and I really thought I was good at reasoning as well, because I was an NTSC scholar and we had a mental ability paper for it. But at the end of the day, when I saw the paper, it wasn't anywhere close to being logical reasoning, but it was more of maths. So I started doing the English comprehension and a little number of problems on the math side. So I think that helped.
So any particular number of attempts that you need to make sure कि हाँ इतने तो होने चाहिए?
I think I did around 55 questions in CSAT paper, and I think I landed up getting 75. So whatever works your way, provided you're sure shot that you've gotten a couple of questions right.
So any particular strategy that you have to attempt comprehension first and then go to mathematics and wind up comprehension in 40 minutes and all?
Yes. Initially, I thought I used to do reasoning first, and because that would give you a conclusive answer, while English comprehension was subjective. But in a paper which is filled with math-based questions, I think it's about going for English comprehension more than the logical reasoning or the math questions. So I think English comprehension needs to be attempted first, and every single passage.
Okay, so you were, part of MGP in Forum, right? How did you manage, for instance, let's say essay? Because you have scored wonderfully well in essay this time.
So I think with respect to the essay, it's about writing the same old format of introduction, body, and conclusion with an anecdote and trying to connect the anecdote. But it's about the vocabulary you use and the number of dimensions that we give. So anything that is novel is rewarded in UPSC is what I feel, and I think that's what worked for me in the essay. So as many dimensions as possible is what I cover.
So any amount of checklist or background work which we need to do when it comes to essay. For example, making some notes or collecting some anecdotes and all.
I think I had 2 to 3 anecdotes which I had taken from topper copies, and I would match the essay topic with the anecdote. So that's what I did. If the anecdote that I have matches with a particular essay, then I used to attempt that particular essay.
So any particular number you remember that at least
I chose essays 1 and 4.
1 and 4. So any number of numbers?
1 and 5.
1 and 5. That's wonderful. So how many essays you must have written before your main exam?
I think 4 or 5 essays, because essays, you can probably give an essay without much preparation. So that's what I did.
Okay, coming to the part of GS1. What was your strategy when it comes to GS1?
I think GS1 was where I've really scored below average, and it was 74. So I'm not probably the right person to talk for GS1, but I kind of followed the same sources, say modern India, spectrum, and social justice or society. You do it based on the topper copies or notes. I think I really had no different strategy for GS1, but I think I could have done it a little better because it was the first paper that was a starting inertia. So I think that is where I went wrong in GS1.
So coming to the part, when it comes to all the GS, if I say, you had notes on every topic?
No, I never had the practice of writing notes because I found it to be a tedious process and time-consuming one. So probably max, I used to have it jotted down, as hints, 2-3 hints for a particular topic. And I just try to recollect, if I can generate points and dimensions. And if I could do, then I think I kind of left it at that.
For example, when it comes to GS2, you also scored wonderfully well. You have scored, I think, 125, right? How you achieved that? How you did that?
I think for GS2, it's about, revising and writing again and again, because initially GS2 and GS4 is what I enjoyed doing. GS3, again, it's a little tough to score. And my resources were no different from every other topper. I think, every topper talk, someone has given a set of resources, and that's exactly what I followed. But what probably I did differently was to, reiterate and revise that multiple number of times, so much so that I could probably generate an answer, in the span of 7 minutes where I could fill the page properly and satisfactorily. I think addressing the demand is where, you start fetching a little more. And that is the difference that all of us, generate in the mains.
Let's see, you scored 125. Now, I interacted with other students also. So few have told, sir, we have quoted verbatims directly from the Constitution, so that the tone of the subject, that is GS2, is reflected in the paper, right? Any USP you had in GS2 particularly?
I wouldn't say USP. In fact, I never had the habit of drawing diagrams in any of my GS papers. Maybe GS3, 1 or 2 diagrams is all that I would have drawn. I think I wrote it in pointers, and it was totally content-driven answer. There was no point that I probably bluffed, I would say. Bluffed in the sense maybe it wasn't a wrong point and it had some content in it. I wouldn't give a heading just because I had to fill space in that particular place. So I made it a point to somehow finish the 2 sides of the A4 sheet for a 10 marker and 3 sides within the required time frame with, proper content driven. So I think it's about the kind of content that you offer.
It's very to the point, very specific. That's really good. But 125 is way too high. Another student, this student of mine for past 2 years, ranked 15, Kunal Rastogi. I think he scored 134. That's, I think, all India highest. Yes. That's why I asked him, but Kunal, I've seen your copies. What extra did you do? He said, I had, last 10-15 days, what I did now, few verbatims I directly quoted from the Constitution itself, so that it reflects the...
I kind of quoted only the Constitution article numbers, but not the verbatim part. I think, that would have again filled the page. So I was more content driven.
Because you have a medical science background, your handwriting, must have gone down, but the speed must have been wonderful, right?
No, in general, I think handwriting also matters, and my handwriting is decent enough. It is legible enough to understand. It isn't shabby, it isn't shoddy. It's good, I would say. It might not be great, but it's good.
That's wonderful.
I think handwriting is important in the mains. Whoever has a good handwriting, generally fetches a little good score, relatively.
Okay, they are coming to the part of GS3. What was your strategy when it comes to GS3?
GS3, I think, is about data totally. So, considering that in the past 2-3 years, there's been a dip in the scores, I was, careful that I should quote as much data as possible, name the reports. And I think that worked in my favor. I got 91, which I think is an above average score for this year's GS3. So whatever possible, especially economy questions, have to be data driven. And if it's about the other EVS wala or science and tech wala questions, I think you can, concentrate on the content more than drawing a diagram or something. And this year we had, again, a little of the bounces, even though Chandrayaan was expected, there was a question on the Vikram module per se, which probably no one knew. So I think, even in GS2 or GS3, there were a set of questions which no one knew. But managing those questions, and presenting content in it, which can appear as though you've actually read and written it, I think that is what matters.
That is what I was about to ask, next. Okay, rule to everyone knows, but when it comes to exceptions, few bouncers every year, we have in the questions. How to manage that?
I think, instead of leaving a question unwritten, it is about writing something to it, which is at least partly connected. Even if it doesn't hit the bullseye, I think it is still okay to, hit somewhere random so that you at least get 3 instead of getting a 0. So I think that's all that matters about, scoring. It's that half a mark, 1 mark that matters.
So it's not advisable to leave the question altogether, right?
Definitely not.
That's wonderful. Okay, coming to the part of GS4, you have scored 130 plus, right?
Yes, 133.
3. Oh, that's way too high. How you manage that here?
I think what I did was to collect definitions from lexicon and add examples to it. So it was a chronic process because, whenever I never used to get sleep in the nights, probably I used to take up a topper's copy of ethics paper and I kind of used to read the question, try to think what I would have written and what they've written. So I just used to kind of compare. Initially, it was a tough process, but later I kind of enjoyed doing it. And every single night, probably I used to look up a topper's copy. So ethics, I think, also helps, when you have a decent flow in English, because you don't have to waste time thinking, what to write next. And you'll be able to cook up definitions even if that has not been something that you've read. So I think this is what matters in ethics. The kind of examples that you give, if it's a little different, you get a little more. And of course, binging on examples and points, that's all that I could recollect.
But there is always a sense of confusion that, when it comes to separating GS4 from other GS, that tone of ethics has to be reflected, right?
Yeah.
What extra did you did?
I think it's about, writing those ethical theories as well. Because this again, comes under examples because someone would have quoted the particular theory and say everyone quotes Kant's teleological ethics, deontological ethics, but repeating the same doesn't help. So you need to have at least a diverse set of theories which you can probably, split up and write in every single answer. So philosophy's theories is all about ethics. And that is again a part of example.
Okay, coming to the part of handwriting. So, there's generally a misnomer that, people coming from medical science background, they have very gibberish writing. Was that the case with you?
No, I think for me, I had a decent to good handwriting, and actually handwriting does help in the mains is what I feel, because when you have a decent to good handwriting, or rather a legible one, people start giving you more marks because their efforts are lesser to understand what you've written. So I think that definitely helps. And it also depends on, how clumsy your presentation is, because presentation is what matters. Everyone kind of gives the same content. But how you present, probably fetches you the extra 1 mark.
That's a wonderful takeaway that yes, handwriting also matters. That's good. Okay, coming to the part you're optional, medical science. Why medical science per se? Because we have seen a history that it's low scoring. It has gone down the marks overall.
I think for me, the cost-benefit ratio was good because I had already secured 40 gold medals, and having done that, I wouldn't be able to do justice to another optional, which would probably take me another 3 to 5 months. So I was kind of sure that I should probably take medical science and even land up getting 260, 270. I think that was okay with me, considering I could put my time over on GS. So it's a nuanced approach. It's a cost-benefit ratio, and you just have to balance between the optional and the GS papers.
So 3-4 things which you say, you would love to say that these things need to be done in medical science and need to be avoided in medical science.
I think maybe one thing which I did wrong was to cut down on the diagrams, and I think more number of diagrams fetches more marks in medical science. Otherwise, I think it's all about writing the points and looking back at your own subject books. There is nothing new in medical science because there are quite a few number of takers, and as well the content is not much which is available in the market. So I think that's all that it takes. There are not much test series either. So if you could probably attempt the previous year questions, I think that's more than enough.
So PYQs, they were your,
yes.
They were your base, right?
Yes.
Okay, coming to the part, for example, of optionals like medical science and mathematics, they are way too huge. It takes a lot of time. How did you manage with the GS part then?
Because my cost-benefit ratio again was about, giving 15-20 days for medical science and the rest of it for GS. So that's what I did. So I think that has paid off as well. I think it's about calculating this estimated time and working on it. If you're good at GS, then go for GS. If you're good at my optional, go for optional. Okay, come to the part of interviews. You have scored wonderfully well, 190 marks in interviews. What clicked? I think interview is about a display of personality, and it really, matters about how you carry forward yourself. So the kind of confidence that you display is what, the aura that you bring out to the interview panel is, I think, what makes the difference. Of course, there is subjectivity, there is a match of luck as well, and that is, how the process has been designed. So fingers crossed is all you can do about the interview. I think mocks help you in that. So they kind of shape you and refine your answers. So that's where the difference lies.
Wonderful. When it comes to mocks, so you have attempted mocks for the MGP?
Yes.
For PRRC also you were part?
I was part of it in the interview guidance program.
Guidance also. So when you were sitting in the Dholpur house, right, and it was your first attempt, what was going on in your head?
I was kind of, baffled about which interview board I would land up going to, and I had Lieutenant General Shukla sir, so it's a really good board, and I really didn't think much, because at the end of the day, it's all written on your fate. So I just wanted it to go smooth. That's all that I had in my mind.
So, I really would love to know your perspective on interviews. What, according to you, they are judging?
I think, it's about the confidence, basically. Even if you say you don't know, it's totally fine, provided you are confident in saying that and, answering the next question. So if your tone goes low, after you say a don't know question, I think that's why, you haven't displayed your personality. So I think it's about every single circumstance where you display your personality and the kind of answers that you reflect.
And what about those questions which you actually don't know?
It's okay to say that you're not sure of it.
That's fine, right?
Yeah, it's totally fine. It's totally fine.
So rather than bluffing, it's better to...
If you bluff, it has to be convincing. If it is not convincing, then you get caught off guard, and that gives a very damaging face to your reputation and the whole process. So it's a double-edged sword. Either you convincingly give an answer, even if it's something wrong, if the other person doesn't know. I think it's okay if you convince them with something to back that point, because there are so many dicey situations where either or could be an answer. There is no one correct answer to it.
That's really wonderful. Again, it was really very well, very nice interacting with you. And we at Forum are again very, very, very proud of you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Congratulations, dear.
Thank you for being part of my journey.